Percent bars are really useful, but they also can be a little bit tedious to use the entire percent bar every single time. A proportion might be a little bit more efficient. So looking at this percent bar that we're given, it says we want to figure out the cost if it's a $80 original cost and there's a 20% tip. So that means $80 is the original amount of money. So the original is always 100%. That's the whole thing. 20% is going to be a part of it, which is over here. 10% would be here because there's 10 boxes. So 20% would be next, then 30%, 40%. If we wanted to keep going, we could all the way down. To find the percent or to find the tip, we're going to find 10% first. So 100% down to 10%. Think about how you would do that. Well, there's 10 tens and 100. So we're just going to divide by 10 and then divide this by 10. So that would be 8 here. And then if 10% is 8, we want to get to 20%, we're just going to count by 8. So 8, 16, 24, 32. We can keep going if we want. 40, 48, 56, 64, 72, 80. So 20% is $16 right here. That represents the amount of the tip. It does not represent the amount of money we're paying total. The $80 represents 100% and the cost is 20. So what percent are we actually paying? Well, if it's 100% and we're adding on an extra 20%, then what we're paying is 120%. So total cost of the meal would be the original $80, that's 100%, plus 20% more. So $80 plus 20% more, which we said was $16. So our new total cost has to be $96. So then moving on to a little bit more efficient way here, we can just use a proportion. So they said Emily said X over 80 and 20 over 100. So let's see why that makes sense. So here's the X over 80, 20 out of 100. So both of these represent part over whole relationships. So the 20 is the part over the whole thing. And then the whole thing was $80 and the missing amount of money was the X. So this is a part over whole, which is why we can use a proportion because the labels match on both sides. So that's how she got these two ratios here. She did part over whole on both sides. So they should be equal because the labels match, right? And you can see it in the percent bar too. 20% matches with the X. This was X originally. And 100% matches with the 80. So you'll notice here that these two up top go together and those two on the bottom go together. So now let's solve this proportion. If it's X over 80 and 20 over 100, I always recommend getting towards X with the scale factor. So I do the same thing here. So I want to think about the scale factor is the new one divided by the old one, and we're pointing at the new one. So 80 divided by 100 would be our scale factor. So this is 0.8, 8 tenths. So it's times 0.8 here, times 0.8 here. So 20 times 0.8 would be our answer. So 20 times 0.8 is the $16 we already had. So that matches our answer from above. So moving on, we can use these proportions now. And this is the general form we're going to use. It's always part over whole. So on the left side, it's the part over whole. And then it says percent out of 100. That's still part over whole, though. The percent represents a part out of the whole thing, which is 100%. But this is like the general format we're going to use for every percent proportion. So if we're talking about this one, we're talking about a bill at Chili's. $58 was the original cost. That's the whole thing. And they wanted to do an extra 15%. That's the part. And then we want to find the tip and their total. So tip, remember, is extra money for the service or for the person bringing your food, waiter or waitress. So what do we do with it? We add it to the bill. It is definitely not a discount. It's an extra amount of money. So for the proportion, again, it's going to be part over whole, percent out of 100. So we're going to figure out all those pieces. The whole thing we said was the original amount. Okay, the original is always 100%. So the original is $58. That's the whole thing. And we are given the percent. So 15 has to go above the 100 because that's percent out of 100. And then we don't know the part. We don't know how much 15% represents. So then from here, we just find a scale factor that gets us to x. So then we want to do again, the scale factor is the new one divided by the old one. And we are pointing at the new one with a scale factor, so pointing at 58. So 58 divided by 100 is the scale factor, which is 0.58, 0.58. So 0.58 here, 0.58 here. And then on our calculator, we just do 15 times 0.58, and we get our answer. Our answer would be $8.70. So then for our total, so it depends on what we're asking for, right? So down below, you'll see it asks for both. The tip would be the $8.70, and then our total would be adding that on. So $58 plus $8.70. Make sure you match up your decimals when we're adding here. So 58 would be really 58.00. And then just add, bring down the decimal, and we get 66.70 would be your total. So these examples all work out very similarly because we're just finding the part for all of these. The next one is just sales tax, which is 6%, and that is the original cost again. So that's going to be 100%, which is the original or the whole thing. So just something very similar for these. Again, it's always the same format. Part over whole equals percent out of 100.